About smithing, and we'll dabble in some other professions or get trade skills. Well, I don't know what you want to call them in New World, but yeah, just a quick New World video. I think it's be like the first of my series. I think I'm gonna be trying to run through different professions and kind of tips and tricks and whatnot, how to level them up and do some cool stuff with them, and how to effectively level them up instead of just making stuff blindly. Especially people coming from WoW, this game is significantly different than WoW. I have to say that this trade skill, I'm going to call them professions because I am a WoW nerd, neckbeard, fucking playing WoW forever. So we'll go and call it professions, even though I think that, they're considered trade skills. But anyways, I digress. Today we're going to be talking about blacksmithing and some just generalized tips about it and how I leveled it up. I'm only level 20, and yet my armor skill is 57. So I think I'm doing a decent job keeping up with the gear that I'm crafting and what level I'm at. So without further ado, let's just kind of hop into it. So a main thing that I'm going to be pretty much talking up to 50. I know this. I would assume that these principles that I'm going to talk about can kind of go on to 200. Granted, I'm not there yet. I haven't put enough time into this game yet. I'm just kind of been playing for about a week or so, and these are just what I have found to be helpful. And so I definitely would stock up. The kind of the main ingredients you're going to need. And it takes a lot of ingredients for blacksmithing. It's not just your ore. It requires ore. It requires hemp or linen. You got to get the reeds or whatever it's called from the hemp. What is the stalks? I forget what it's called. The little item, whatever. Jeez, I can't talk today. Blah, blah, blah. So anyways, you're going to need wood, you're going to need the hemp stuff, you're going to need ore, you're going to need leather, you're going to need a lot of things. So it is pretty material dependent. Luckily though, if you're going straight into heavy armor, I mean, depending on, the way I play is I usually just gather everything possible. If there's an animal, it's getting skinned. If there's herbs, it's getting herbed. If there's mines, it's getting mined. I'm not specifically going out into the world when I'm exploring and leveling up, specifically for just ore or just skinning. To me, that does kind of detract from the game and kind of will slow you down. This whole game's about running around and just killing shit, doing quests. I mean, there's no main lore, but anyways, again, I'm getting off track. So, I think the best way to be leveling blacksmithing while leveling up is to literally gather almost everything in your trade skill, and particularly on blacksmithing, you definitely want to be skinning. You're going to be wanting to find herbs, especially like hemp, that turns into linen cloth, because that's what a lot of the materials are. Let's just go quickly to some iron gear. So the iron bracers require 4 iron ingots, 4 leathers, and 1 cloth, and you don't really need to worry about this unless you're making it for yourself, and I'll get to that later. So you need these 4. So this comes, I think it's 3 or 4 hides make 1 leather. So you essentially need 12 hides for bracers. And each bracer's pretty much from level 1 to, let's say 40 or 50. Oh, 50, because that's when you get steel armor. It's about 2 to 3 iron plate gauntlets, roughly, per level. Sometimes more as you get higher up, closer to 50. And so what I always do is, I don't know if, I didn't notice at first, but this number right here, plus 108, is how much experience each craft is going to get you. So every time you complete a craft, it's going to give you 108 armoring skill. There's 2 different skills. Actually, it's 3, engineering, armor, and weapon, which is also good to know. This also levels up across the board, and I'll get to that as well later. So if you're going to be leveling up blacksmith armor skill through the blacksmith, and I should have rephrased it from the outset, it's because armor skill is across. If you're making light armor or medium armor, it's leveling your armor skill, not necessarily your smithing skill. It's just you end up doing heavy armor at the forge. So with that kind of separated out, I'm going to call this blacksmithing because you're doing things at the forge making heavy armor. But at the end of the day, it's your armor skill that's going up. So you could, in theory, if it is cheaper to do stuff with the linen and make light armor, because your armoring skill will still go up. So if you find that easier, you can do that. So that is something to at least worth noting. But I'm just focusing on the forge/blacksmith because that's what I have done and have a little bit more experience with. So what I usually do is, as you can tell, 216 armoring. Make the chest piece, 1,000. That's for steel. So let's go back to iron. So an iron breastplate. Where's iron breastplate? Iron plate breastplate's 420 armoring skill. So what I usually do is I'll go out. Let's say for clear my bags, go out fucking grinding for, let's say, an hour, right? I get all of this, and whatever I'm done at the end of my grind sesh, I see how much minerals I have. I craft them in their refined resource, because if you have iron ore, you want to make them iron ingots. So once all of my raw materials have been refined into craftable materials or refined materials, I go through each one and I compare how much armoring skill I get to how many can I make, right? So like, this is how much I can make 61 swords, right? So you click here and I'll tell you how many swords, but this gives me 0 skill, so I'm not going to make any. So depending on how many you can craft, what I do to make my crafting go more efficient, and there's only one exception to this, making armor for yourself. So I'll get to that in a second. So once you have all your ingredients from, let's say, your grind sesh, you go, okay, well, I can make 3 iron breastplates for 420, or I can make 20, or let's say 16 boots, or boots. So you do the math, just do some quick calculator math. It's 100. If you had 12 of these, it's roughly 1,200 experience, where that's equivalent. So making 10 of these, or let's say 12 iron plate boots are going to be roughly the same as 3 chest pieces. So you might as well do some quick math to make sure that you're investing and wasting your craft materials on the correct item. It just makes it more efficient, and it just saves you time in the long run, because you don't want to be just burning it. Traveling in this game is not the easiest. You're running around a lot, so you don't want to be unnecessarily running. You want to craft as many things as you can in one session. So I did mention exceptions to that rule is if you're making gear for yourself. So like, you can add a bunch of perks. All my stuff is actually in storage in a different town, so you're not going to see them, but I have a good chunk of these. I like, of this screen, I know it scrolls down, right? So of this screen, I probably have half of these. So with half of them, you can add that into here, and then you can give it some extra perks, attributes, and gem slots by adding Azoth to it. So when making gear for yourself, and that's why I have a big push to make steel gear, was because it's closer to my gear score level and requires level 20. So you can't even wear the steel plate until level 20. So if you can make steel plate between, let's say, 18 and 22, like, you're, I think, progressing at a good rate, because in my opinion, it's better to level your professions while you're leveling instead of hitting max level and then going back, because then you're running through things twice, 3 times. It's just not fun, and it becomes more of a chore than part of the experience. So I think if you have that mindset and just take a little bit extra time, maybe you won't level as fast as your friend, but maybe at the end of the game when you're at level 60 and all your professions are maxed out, your buddy's still sitting in crap gear, relearning all of his professions because he didn't take the time to do it the first time. So keep that in mind when you're leveling up. So like, some of those tricks, one of the tips I would recommend is craft while leveling. Sometimes you might need to just stop questing to maybe spend a couple hours on your profession to get those up. And I think that would be quite helpful to do so, because again, like I said, I'm level 20, I'm 22, 23, and all my gear, except I have a 1 blue piece in this piece from the auction house. Everything else is crafted by myself, and so I was able to add 11 strength. I added the Azoth. I put a bunch of Azoth into it, and yeah, maybe I wasn't the most efficient on my level and getting experience under Armorsmith, but I was able to make myself some decent gear. In level 23, I have an average of 279 item level gear score. At the end of the day, maybe not the best. I could probably upgrade some jewelry and my shield and stuff, but gem some of my stuff. But when it comes to strictly my gear, all my gear is like 300 plus, except the boots and shield, and those are within 4. So not complaining too much, but I think that personally I'm in a decent spot for where I'm leveled at and where my profession's at for armorsmith. I haven't focused on weaponsmithing yet. I wanted to get my armor skill, personally, I want to get my armor skill to 50 so I can make the steel plate, because I have noticed picking up significantly more weapons than armor that pertain to me. And so I made the choice, because you have to level both. And so I'm going to start focusing on leveling my weapon skill, because it's actually going to be a little bit easier, in my opinion, just because the material demands with the experience equal out pretty decently. I haven't done that like the raw number math and see that maybe that's a fake news statement, but to me it seems a bit easier. Plus you can start making green items that can probably sell in the auction house significantly earlier than you can armor, right? So you couldn't make steel until level 50. You can make decent weapons that have roughly a little low item level for 20. I mean, it takes a little, mid-level, mid-teens at level 27. So you can make significantly better stuff earlier on. That's why I wanted to focus on armoring, to get the armoring up, because I knew I was going to out-level the armoring skill pretty quickly. And so while you're level 50, you can already make weapons that are 300, and probably 290 to 300 gear score level, which is similar to steel, but I mean, you can get these listed on Auction House and make some slight, side cash. One thing I do want to mention before I exit here is I'm just gonna make a few swords and then show you as an example. Granted, it's just green wood. It's not giving me any skill, but this does pertain to anything that you can craft when it comes to iron, steel, whatever weapons. Is when you craft them, if you're not going to sell them, and personally, if you're focused on leveling, auction house prices are so suppressed right now, it's going to cost you more to list some of these items than it will actually just getting rid of them. And so when you're done here, and I actually never tried this with wood longsword, so it could blow back on me. Well, I'm going to see, yeah. Salvage everything. Hit the salvage button, because it's going to refund the main ingredients. So when it's iron, it's going to refund you iron ingots. If it's steel, it's going to give you steel ingots. And then I have noticed when doing that, you can sometimes make sometimes depending on how much you craft, 1 to 2 additional items on top of that when salvaging. So instead of listing on the auction house and making no money and actually spending more money on your deposit, and you're focusing on leveling up, just salvage everything, reinvest those ores, and craft 2 more items, 3 more items, depending on how much you have. I've noticed I'm able to squeeze, like I said, between 1 and 3 items outside of salvaging. So, just a quick recap. Salvaging, make sure you salvage your stuff if you don't plan on selling them. And if you're focused on skill ups, salvage. You're focused on kind of making money. Then you have to do a bit more research to see what items give you still good experience and are also worth listing on the auction house as more of an investment. That's more of a long-term strategy. If that's kind of your game style, then more power to you. It's not mine. When I'm focusing on something, I want to get it up. So I salvage everything that I don't plan on using. I still do check the perks, because sometimes there are little gems that you can create that do sell for decent. And so before you just hit the salvage button, do check to see if you have like a unicorn. Outside of that, salvage everything. Tip number 2 is just make sure you're farming and gathering all your skills and all your stuff while leveling up. And if you need to just say, I'm leveling faster than my profession / my trade skills, I need to focus on my profession / trade skills, then do so. Everyone's new here. At least if you're watching in the first week or 2 of this game being out. Even then, just take your time and enjoy the game. Just level it up and definitely invest time into it, because it's going to pay out in the end. Some of the best gear in the game is crafted gear. So keep that in mind, that some of the best gear in the game will be crafted gear. Tip 3, and I didn't really mention this super much, but utilize the storage. I know I didn't really run over, I just mentioned in passing, but do use the storage, because use the storage and actually make sure you have like a center base. Like my center base right now is Monarch Bluffs, actually. All my storage stuff's in Monarch Bluffs. So I just happened to be here because my bags were full and I needed to offload my bags and go to bed. But otherwise, I try and make it back to my home base, wherever that may be, because anything that you store in either like your normal base, like Monarch Bluffs, and or anywhere that you control the zones. If your bags don't have any of the crafting material in them, but they're in your storage, you can craft from out of your storage. You don't have to always carry that load and organize. I dump almost everything into my storage, go to the world, craft, break down materials, put back in storage, because you can craft out from the storage while not actually having to withdraw from the storage. Kind of a worthy mention, but I forgot to mention like going into depth on that. Sorry about that, but that is probably tip number 3. And number 4, just enjoy the game and you know, do whatever you find cheaper. If you're like, I'm a heavy gear character, so I'm focusing on heavy gear. When it comes, if you're making light gear or medium gear, you know, the tips probably can bleed over to that and maybe are easier and more efficient. I don't know, but I'm just talking more of efficiency and how I leveled up stuff with the forge / I call blacksmithing. So I know it's a bit over. I know this video is a bit all over the place, but it's my first video back in a long time. So I do appreciate whoever is still listening. 16 minutes in, but hopefully it's some good content. If you guys liked this video and thought it was helpful and informative, please hit the like button and maybe share it to a friend. And whoever needs help, whoever else needs help with your friends with blacksmithing or not really sure where to start, share this video and hopefully it was helpful. And again, thank you for watching and smash that subscribe button. And I'm gonna be uploading more videos hopefully coming up about New World and maybe some other video games as they come out, but mostly focusing on New World here. So again, give me a like, give me a subscribe, and enjoy your adventure.